What is up, everybody? Everyday Angler here, here for another tying video. Today we're gonna do a single hook smallmouth fly. Mostly it's a smallmouth just because it's so, the hook size is gonna be a single hook fly and it's so small. This tied on the Ahrex TP650 26-degree bend hook. This is the hook that a lot of these SIDs and stuff like that is tied on, and that's actually what we're gonna tie today, is a little deer hair head fly. For this fly, I'm gonna be talking about utilizing the shape of deer hair, not really the density of it, because this is gonna be a dense head. The shape of it, so here's like a changer I tied a while back, and you can see this is like a bullet head. This is literally just dart, 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 and that's all that head is for. A different style head is, this is kind of like a deceiver that I tied. This is actually a jerk changer. The concept didn't work out like I wanted it to, but it fishes great. And this is kind of like the high and tight. You see how tight and narrow that head is, and that's more for your wave slowly fanning out back and forth, especially when I tied it on this jerk changer platform. I'm gonna do a jerk changer video soon. And we'll talk about one more style head, if I can dig through my box and find one. Well, I'll show you two more real quick. So this is like that that Brammer's pheasant tail muddler. It's just a bigger 2/0 hook, and this is kind of more of the diving head. This is kind of the head that I'm gonna put on this fly, and I'll talk about why I do that. And then the last head, which there's way more than just this, but is just a round, like water push head. This may dart either way, especially when tied on a loop knot, but really it's just there to make some noise. See how round it is? This is actually my hover changer with a yellow tail. I really like this a lot, and this, when you're tying them dense like that, it really gives them that float, or that hover, which is why they call that the hover changer. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in on this hook, and I'm just gonna tie the fly and talk about why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a pretty unique hook, and I want to get them in bigger sizes, but I've been messing around with this smaller size. The only reason I want to go bigger is so try to get those rock bass off my hook, but we'll talk about a few of the unique features. So they made it a 26-degree bend, and I'm gonna hold up, this is a 1/0, or actually this is a 2/0 Ahrex 60-degree bend. You can see how much sharper that is, and you can imagine the 90 straight up and down. Another difference is this is like a Aberdeen style round bend, when this one's more of a stinger. So it closes up our hook gap a little bit, but not enough for it to really matter compared to that. All right, and what this is gonna do is when I put a deer hair head on it, I'm gonna fish it on sinking line or floating line as a diver, but it's going to give it like a crankbait action, like dig, 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 and then when you stop, it's gonna either hover or float, depending on how you tie it. I want this one to float a bit. I'm gonna put a really dense head on this of deer hair. So, and then we're also gonna talk about counterbalancing. So I'll show you that. This is 6/0 Veevus in black. We're gonna do another, actually the last fly I did was not black, so this one's going to be though. Well, this is gonna be a couple cool colors. All right, so now let's get to the counter weighting. So I'm grabbing just a piece of some cheap 25-pound mono. And I'm not going to cover the whole fly. I'm going to leave this section of the hook, the kind of the third front of it clear, because I'm going to spin this head on. Now what I'm gonna do is, this is just a brass bead, a 3.8 millimeter brass bead. Okay, I'm gonna run this brass bead down my mono, just like that. And I'm actually gonna do 2. I'm gonna grab my mono and actually run it through the first one I put on there. So we got this little number right here. And I'm gonna take a couple wraps under this mono, kind of like if I was doing a post, just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I kind of like that they're a little loose too. I feel like they might make a little more noise. But that's going to be hidden by what we're about to put on this fly. So next, going to come in with some glue. Okay, surprise, surprise. Next material, Magnum Zonker strip in black. I guess I can talk about why I put that weight there. So if you've tied flies for a while and you start getting into like fly design to make certain things swim certain ways, you'll start learning that putting weight on the back of the hook, especially like kind of like on an arm like this, instead of just tying lead right here, it's gonna, when my head pushes one way, the weight's gonna kick it out this way, it's gonna turn even further. That's when you get, if you know what a pole dancer is, that's a fly. Look it up. If you're gonna look it up, look up pole dancer fly. Originated by some guys that were striped bass fishing that wanted that walk the dog action. So they put a big popper. I've actually got one. Okay, so this is now this is not like the original pattern, but this is a variation of it. It's popper, you could put a diver head or whatever you want on it. It's just marabou and crystal flash on the bottom. But if you pull up the marabou, you can see that's actually a pair of dumbbell eyes back here. So what that does is, instead of this just being a pop, 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 this is gonna pop and wiggle one way, stop, and then when you pull it, it's gonna go the other way, so it gives it that walk the dog action, which is what this fly is gonna do. Now the idea I got this mono was actually from the Roamer, the smallmouth book guy. I think it's up here. Jake Vilwalk. This is a great book if you haven't read it. I rarely will like, I will tie exact people's patterns at first, and then you kind of get your own take on them. But he's the one that first kind of, the first fly that I saw that he was using that kind of counterweight to get that certain action in a fly. Anyways, let's get back to tying. And this is a really cool color. I'm gonna use Blaine's. Why? Every time I look down, something's missing. Oh, it's not Blaine's. Polar reflector flash. This flash is used in a lot of flies, mostly game changers. And it's this really cool brown, kind of copper color. Rusty, I guess you'd call it. Next we're going to come in with some silly legs. Now this is from a bass skirt. They're barred and they actually have a little bit of purple flake in them. I know it's kind of hard to see, but... And when I'm trying to reduce bulk, because we're getting closer to the head, I'll fold them over like that and cut them. And I'll just tie them in right here on the side of the hook. Okay, and I forgot to mention, I'm actually tying all this on top of the bump of my zonker, because I'm leaving this all clear up here for that deer hair. Last step before the head, I'm gonna get another saddle hackle, a hand saddle hackle. This is all black. These black ones are pretty cool because they kind of got this, I don't know if yeah, you can see it, this like fluorescent dark green on them. So it's just cooler than just regular black. Try to get as much of that junk out of my way as I can for this deer hair head. And I did just cut my thread off. I'm switching to 200 Veevus flat waxed. This stuff is just, this is the only time I use a bobbin like this too for deer hair. I don't have to worry about, yeah, back that off a little bit actually. I don't have to worry about breaking that junk. Okay. Natural belly hair, body hair actually, in black. This is not... Okay, try to show you. So I tried to distribute it as evenly as I could. About as thick as it's gonna get for such a short shank we had to work with. Naturally, this material is kind of folded over farther back because of that bend. And now this is kind of where you decide like what you really want this fly to do. Which I already know I want it to dive, wiggle and dive, sorry, wiggle and dive and then float back up. So in order to do that, I'm gonna give this thing a pretty aggressive diving head. We got this nice muddler head on there. And this is why I like using the fabric fusion. This deer hair head is never, oh. And I've actually, like, when you're using super glue, you can kind of wipe it with your fingers and then wipe your fingers on your desk real quick. But with this stuff, it really doesn't leave your hands a mess. And all I'm doing with it is shaping this head. And it's gonna be pretty dope. Pretty dope. Pretty much no matter how many bass, well, eventually it will, but not even close in comparison with a regular deer hair head fly. You can use UV Flex. This stuff will leave it flexy too. It's kind of got like this milky coating, but once it dries 100%, you're good. It'll be crystal clear, and it just really toughens it up. It's just that zonker tail, it is gonna foul on you every once in a while. Just get over it. If you see it fouling, just pick your fly up, fix it, keep fishing it, it's worth it. It's about 3-inch fly, single hook, super wiggly and scrumptious to smallmouth. But for bass, single hook up front is perfect. When they eat something like this, they eat it. I don't really believe, I think the original heads and kind of flies in this style were made to be sculpin. This could definitely be a sculpin, but I think it's more of just a bait, like a tractor pattern, the way this thing moves in the water. I was gonna cut my silly legs a little shorter, but I kind of like them just where they are. Little flashy copper underbelly, so most likely these fish are gonna be looking up at this thing. It's gonna go wiggle, wiggle, pause, boom. You know what I'm saying? All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'll have a better setup sometime. It's just this kind of the only setup I got. You can see my sister actually painted that bluegill for me. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time on another episode of The Everyday Angler.